Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents To the One I Love the Best by Ludwig Bemelmans, narrated by David de Vries. Part 1. Elsie at Home. 1. Invitation. Psychologists say that an excessive intake of food and wine is a substitute for happiness. I like pudding, I like wine, roast goose, Virginia ham, shepherd's pie, and lobster stew. I am hungry and thirsty a great deal of the time, which accounts for the fact that I have acquired a reputation as a connoisseur of wines and as a gourmet. If I am hungry, then the thing I worry about most is that one day all the goodies will be taken away from me. Oh no, not by the Russians, by someone infinitely kinder, but still taken away. I am speaking of the day or night after which a photograph of me, and a bad one, will appear on the most somber page of the newspaper, and under it my name and a resume of my career, which was mainly dedicated to the enjoyment of life. At least, that is what it will say, for I have also acquired a reputation as a lover of life and a professor of happiness. I believe in God. To me he has been wonderful, kind, and generous. But I have never been able to convince myself that after I have passed through this magnificent world, I'll be admitted to a place even more astonishing, to a paradise of better landscapes, restaurants, horses, dogs, cigars, and all the other objects of my adoration. For such would be my paradise. I cannot imagine myself as an angel sitting on a cloud forever singing, and I think it would bore the good God himself. For such as I, then, all is here and now, the rewards and the miracles. They are the green tree, the sunrise, and all the things we sing about, the jet plane, the paintbrush and the easel, the cadets of West Point, and especially children. Most of all babies, with their grave, observant eyes. In spite of all that, the black moods descend upon me, and consolation is hard to find. I can't be helped by psychiatrists, for, of those I know, several have committed suicide, a dozen have been divorced, and the best of them have the look of the haunted and bewildered, or radiate the false effusiveness of the overstimulated. I lie on my own couch, suspended in cosmic gloom, the eye turned inward, and it takes me a while to console myself. There are two cures. One is to work. All misery fades when I work, but I can't work all the time. The other is to celebrate. I, the confirmed lover of life and professor of happiness, look, as we all must, at life, and at the approaching day when we can only hope to be mourned for. I get hungry again and have to hurry and reassure myself with another good bottle and a fine meal, and after the coffee I look through the blue smoke of my good cigar. I sit in the melancholy mood that is like cello music and search for the answers we shall never know. People such as I live by rules of their own. We are not happy with the comforts that the group offers. We are off-horses, misfits. We don't fit into the classes. We are not of the laboring class, the professional type, the manufacturer or salesman group, not even of that indigent company that collects in low bars or the brotherhood of the flophouses. In the design that has been imposed upon humanity, we are solitary, self-appointed outcasts. Outcast is too dramatic a word. Let's call us alone-goers. That also is not quite true, for I seek people and like them, but still, in their midst, I am alone. My life has been colored mostly by a period spent in the army as a medic in the violent wards of an insane hospital. I learned there to block myself against things, to impose a rigid discipline on my own mind and emotions, and to be equally impersonal with the patients, for otherwise I could never have been of help to them. I learned there also to regard death as a generous manifestation, and to love life all the more for this discovery. And for the good of the soul, I learned to step outside of myself, to forget the I, which is the key to happiness. Another detail of my character is that I am contrary by nature, and I always take the other side. Also, I hate to order round-trip tickets. I go one way, because I hold before me the possibility that I may never come back. A nonconformer, then, I came to Hollywood and decided again to be contrary. At that time, they gave money away, and I received a heap of it for the original stories they bought from me, and also a contract that gave me more than I could ever have hoped for in the wildest calculations. I've always been careless with money. It seemed illogical to me to save any of it when there wasn't much anyway. Now there was, and it seemed to make sense to be miserly. I had rented a little cabin, a shack at the beach in Topanga, for $40 a month. I always go the whole hog. I decided I'd wash my own socks, sweep up and make my bed, shine my shoes, and work. I wanted to paint. The money I had and the money I would save would allow me to do what I wanted for the rest of my life. That is, be an itinerant painter traveling across America in my little car and painting the country. I had bought a second-hand Ford convertible, and with this I would commute to the studio. The elegant world of Hollywood, the life of the stars, all that, was to be left to one side. The studio had engaged a suite for me at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I stayed there until I bought the car and found the shack. When I went back to the hotel for the last time to pick up my mail and my belongings before driving out to the beach, there were many invitations, among them one to come to cocktails at Lady Mendel's. I had heard of her. She was a very old lady and a decorator, and she interested me. She was outside the things I had marked as off-limits. I accepted this one invitation. I'm very glad I did, for since I met her, when I sit and look through the blue haze of my cigar, there always appears the one creature who gave me inspiration, who fought the phantoms, who, day in and out, set me an example that made beautiful sense. She weighed about 90 pounds without her jewels, and when I met her she was 90 years old. When you live here and there and travel a lot, the seasons run into each other, and the years lose shape, especially if part of the time is spent in Hollywood. The war was almost over. I had worked with the OWI and finished a guide for the troops in France. I had written the story for an anti-Nazi film called The Blue Danube, and for another called Yolanda and the Thief. There were plans for producing both of these. There were the usual meetings with the agent and the producer. I was quartered in an office, elegant and air-conditioned, and, as I have said, I got the old car and drove to the Beverly Hills Hotel to move to the beach, and there was, among others, the message which said, "While you were out, Lady Mendel's secretary, Miss West, called to ask you for cocktails tomorrow around 6. I experience an occasional pleasant illusion. It is the dreamlike sensation that, in a former existence, I was a person of great consequence, one who lived in marble halls, a munificent, benevolent king, marquis, or a prince. All other people who share this belief find that they were equally well placed. No one has ever told me that in a former life he was a butler, a dishwasher, or a policeman. In consequence of this, I have a great preference for palaces, magnificent interiors, for faded silvered mirrors, marbles, and antique statuary. In Hollywood, one can find almost anything, but I did not expect to find there the reincarnation of the scenes of a former life, and to come across a little palace exactly like the lovely silver and blue Amalienburg that stands in the park of Nymphenburg outside Munich. Nor hope to find therein, reflected in faded mirrors, the fabulous creature who, with discipline unmatched, defied the eternal fears. 2. The Footstool of Madame Pompadour. Because nobody walks in Hollywood, we are now driving along Benedict Canyon Drive in Beverly Hills looking for a place called After All. The number of the house is 1018. In this latitude, it would be too much to expect that a house whose interior is Baroque would have an exterior to match, so 1018 is California Spanish on the outside. In front is a large, sanded place to park. It looks as if a party were taking place. About a dozen cars are parked close to the house. We drive around a circular patch of carefully tended grass, from the precise center of which rises the trunk of a tall eucalyptus tree. These trees ordinarily are sloppy. Their bark hangs in shreds, like an overcoat about to be cast off. This one is meticulously groomed. Under the tree is a green garden table, and at the table, with a file cabinet, sits a woman of ample proportions. She looks up and smiles. She has emerald-colored eyes, and as she gets up, half a dozen kittens fall from her lap. "Those are my pussy cats and kitty cats," she says, "and without them I don't know what I would do. And you are Mr. Bemelmans. Welcome to After All. I am Lady Mendel's secretary. My name is Hilda West." The arriving guest is protected against the California dew by a porte-cochere with green and white striped canvas storm curtains. Through a green foyer we enter the house and turn right to go into the salon. The interior is like that of the castle in Nymphenburg. The illusion of the former existence presents itself for a moment. The room is empty. There is no party. The cars belong to Lady Mendel's hairdresser, to Dr. Hauser, to the manicurist, to Sir Charles Mendel, to the florist, and to a very special electrician by the name of Mr. Nightingale, who tells me all this while he is busy lighting a small menagerie of crystal animals in a glass cabinet. The butler approaches with tremendous aplomb and says, "Lady Mendel will be with you in a minute." Even if we only know a person from what we read and hear, we form a definite opinion. In my mind, I had designed Lady Mendel exactly as she was. There are statues of saints in Latin countries, especially in Spain, the most beautiful in Seville, that are carried about the city at night during Holy Week. They move a little stiffly on floats, borne on the backs of penitents and in the lights of hundreds of candles. They are loaded with jewels in silver robes. They have flowers of silver in their hair. Men with silver trumpets precede them, and the Spanish increase the mortification of the penitents by throwing glowing cigar and cigarette butts in their path. The penitents curse, and the statues and the flickering lights seem to show as much commiseration as Spanish etiquette permits. As she came towards me, this mood of things Spanish and churchly was in the room, but only for the eye and the moment, for as she advanced farther she changed completely. She had on a severe black dress made by Meinbacher, with a gold fob at the side as the only decoration. Her legs were like those of a little girl, and well shod, in low-heeled black shoes that a ballerina might wear. She pulled the skirt away at the sides and straightened it out, and then stuck her gloved hands in two pockets, and with her chin motioned to a white couch on which were 3 pillows, in deep sea-green satin with letters embroidered in white silk. The first pillow read, "It takes a stout heart to live without roots." On the second was, "Never explain, never complain." And on the third, "Who rides a tiger can never descend." We sat down. On the right was an onyx fireplace, and on the mantel stood an exquisite small coral-red clock, the only object in this room not white, silver, or green. We faced a vast mirror, oxidized and fogged with age. She looked at me in this mirror. Most of our conversations took place via this mirror, and after the get-acquainted talk, she said, "Stevie, I have very clear eyes. I have second sight and instant recognition. We will be very good friends, you and I, such good friends that when Mother talks to you it will be as if she talked to herself." She leaned against me, took my arm and my hand, and went on looking into the mirror as she said, "Mother has invented a cocktail made of gin and grapefruit juice and Cointreau. It sounds revolting, but try it. You may like it, but if you don't, just tell Mother, and you can have anything else you want. Never take anything you don't want. I'm a wanter, and so are you. I know you very well. You and I, We live by the eye, and that's why we are friends." The butler passed a tray with the Lady Mendel cocktails on it. She watched my face in the mirror as I tasted it, and she said to the butler, "Take it away and bring him a scotch and soda," which was precisely what I wanted. "But you like this room, Stevie. There is nothing in it that offends you?" I don't know why she called me Stevie. Probably because a war was going on with Germany, and she didn't like the Teutonic Ludwig. "Stevie, listen to Mother. I was born in an ugly house in an ugly street, the last of 5 children. I was told that I was ugly by my parents, by both of them, and the furniture in that house was ugly too, and I always got the dark meat of the chicken. I made myself like it, the dark meat, but that's the only thing I compromised on. For the rest, I said, looking into that very clear, cruel mirror in my room, if I am ugly, and I am going to make everything around me beautiful. That will be my life, to create beauty, and my friends will be those who create beauty. And I have held to that every day of my life. I said to myself, like Dr. Coué advised people to say to themselves, every day I am feeling better and better. So I said, every day, I will make my small niche in the world more and more beautiful. And beautiful things are faithful friends, and they stay beautiful. They become more beautiful as they get older. My lovely house, my lovely garden. I could steal for beauty. I could kill for it. A new transformation had been going on. She now had the sharp profile of Voltaire. She kicked me in the ribs with her elbow and cried, "Ha! Vulgarity marches on like a plague, and everything is getting cold and ugly." The butler passed with cocktail food. "Is it cold out, Combs?" "Not really cold, m'lady, but I'd say fur coat cold." "Mother is free tonight, Stevie. Would you take her to dinner? I eat very frugally, and I hardly drink." A maid brought in a very carefully groomed miniature poodle. "This is Mr. Bemelmans," said Mother, introducing me to the dog. "One of the family, and this is Blue Blue." Blue Blue had no interest in me. He sat down and stared, immobile as a chameleon in a tree. Mother said, "Dear Blue Blue. He went and bit the wheels of the locomotive the last time we left Paris. He knew how I hated to leave. I have a house in Versailles, the Villa Trianon, and I was almost done decorating it when the Germans came. Speaking of the villa, only yesterday a little souvenir arrived from there, a little part of its glory, a footstool that once belonged to Pompadour. There it is, Stevie. Please move it over. There's a little patch of sunlight in the center of the room. Place it there so we can properly appreciate it." I moved the delicate piece of furniture into the sunlight. "It's been in storage. It's been lonesome and cold. Mother feels about that, for she has hung her heart on objects like that, and there are so many more locked up and in hiding, and I must go and get them out and finish the villa. But you know, Stevie," and now I got the second kick in the ribs, "I am a self-made woman, and everything you see here I have bought with my own money. But somehow there is never enough. I never have enough money to buy all the beautiful things that I want in this world, and to do all the things I want to do. But never mind that. I always manage. Now, let's look at the footstool." The sun had moved from it, and I had to place it anew. It was mounted on 4 emerald-colored legs with golden claws. A row of silver nails in the shape of fleur-de-lis held down a petit point cover that was as delicate as the illuminations on medieval manuscripts. There was the sound of a car outside, and then the door opened. There entered life in the person of Sir Charles Mendel. He came towards me and smiled with a jolly face that was like a ripe plum lying a little on its side. The plum was festooned with a Colonel Blimp mustache. "This is my dear husband," Mother started to say. As Sir Charles extended his hand, he tripped over Madame Pompadour's footstool and lay on the floor, very still. "My God, he's dead," said Lady Mendel. "Nonsense," answered Sir Charles. "I'm not dead. Having played polo all my life, I simply know how to fall. When one falls, one remains absolutely still for a minute. Now, don't anyone bother helping me up." He remained quiet for what seemed a long time. "Are you resting, dear?" asked Lady Mendel. "Yes, I'm resting," said Sir Charles. "Well, don't overdo it." Sir Charles was watching the dial on his wristwatch. At the end of a minute, he got up. Mother put one fist to her hip and stamped her foot. She slapped me on the back hard and said, "You search the world for beauty, for beautiful things to live with. You fill your home with the most exquisite pieces, and you place them right. All is perfect. And then in comes your husband wearing that awful coat, that inseparable, impermeable, confounded trench coat, and ruins all the effect so carefully established." Ignoring these words, his plum face leaning back so that he spoke to the ceiling rather than to us, Sir Charles answered, "This coat was given me on the occasion of my visit to the Maginot Line. The Maginot Line, being French, did not keep out the Germans, but this coat, being British, I dare say, still keeps out the rain, and I shall keep on wearing it. I am as fond of it as you are of your precious antiques, my dear." The butler had taken the offending garment and also the footstool, and Lady Mendel, with a curious smile in which she lifted her upper lip and showed her teeth, said, "This is my dear husband, Sir Charles Mendel." The hand was extended a second time, and she added, "Dear Charles, do me a favor. Go out and come in again. I love to see you come into this house without that coat." Sir Charles obliged. Sir Charles had a late paper, and the headline was about Paris. "Oh, to think that France is free again," said Mother with a saintly face, clasping the white-gloved hands. "Dear Paris, dear Versailles, I shall see my villa again." "Dear Paris," said Sir Charles, "and the French. Awfully depressing, especially if you speak the language." "There are a few things Charles and I don't agree on. They are diet, the French, and beautiful things. For example, this poor dear footstool of Madame Pompadour's. It could have been in this house 100 years, and if he hadn't fallen over it, dear Charles would never have been aware of its presence." Lady Mendel then asked him, "I wonder how soon one can fly to Paris." Sir Charles was seated. Glancing at his paper, he said, "A plane crashed. 50 people killed." "Anyone we know, Charles, dear?" "No, Elsie, it was a Canadian plane." "I know some Canadians, very nice people," said Elsie. Charles said he hoped that none of them were on board that plane, and then he excused himself and went to his room. "Dear Charles," said Elsie, "he's such a snob. You know he has a pain in his right leg, and he insists that it's the same disease that the king has." She leaned over and said in confidence, "He's getting a little gaga, poor dear. He's taking on the prerogatives of children, like running off to his room to sulk. But it's refreshing to have a husband who is still attractive to women and who behaves properly. With all the nonsense going on here, it gives me great pleasure. You know how it is with anyone out here who has a title and is an international figure. He has been to see the Pope in private audience. He's received all the ambassadors and distinguished people. He is superb at arranging seatings at table, and he looks so wonderful against the fireplace. Of course, the dear man knows nothing about furniture or beautiful things. He makes faces when he has to look at paintings at an exhibition." Charles came back into the room. Looking at me, he asked, "I say, where are the oysters better, at Romanoff's or at Leroux?" I said they were best at Chasen's, because there was a much larger turnover. Elsie looked at him sharply. "Charles, who are you dining with?" "Oh, a very ravishing creature." "Is it as mysterious as all that?" "No, Elsie dear, but I can't recall. I have to look in my little book." He wandered off to his room again, and I received the third poke. "You see what I mean?" said Elsie in a deep voice and with a Voltaire face. "Charles is getting old. He can't remember any more." He came back with a pince-nez on his nose and his little black book open. "I'm not dining out, I'm dining in, with Joan Fontaine, at her house." "Is she a good cook?" "I don't know her that well," said Charles, and left again. "Mother is going upstairs for a minute, and then we'll take the car. And may Mother bring a friend, Blue? And where are we going to dine, Stevie?" "At Romanoff's," I said. Mother clicked her tongue and made a few faces of youthful anticipation and stamped her feet. Sir Charles appeared once more. "I'll be back rather late, dear. I'm taking Joan to a concert after dinner. Heifetz is playing." Mother took a stance again, stuck her hands in her pockets and smiled, and left to go upstairs. Later in the car she said, "Oh, those musical evenings. Dear Charles is musical. He sings. They say he has a good voice. He has volume and sings notes within notes. As for Heifetz, they say he is the best. But when I come out of one of his concerts, I don't know whether I have been to it or not. It isn't music to me. I could just as well have watched him wind a clock. Here is Romanoff's. Tchick! I like Mr. Romanoff very much. He welcomes dogs in his restaurant." We had a good, slow, quiet dinner and 2 bottles of wine. There was some talking, but also the long silences that usually come only after long acquaintance and friendship. When I said good night to Mother at the door of her house, I promised to come back the next day for lunch. I found that I was happy to be with her. She was as comprehensible to me as if I had painted her a dozen times. She was uncomplicated. She was ageless. I observed her closely, and at first with some fear that the perfection of this wonderful living objet d'art might have flaws. But I found out that it was perfect, and for me it stayed so. I looked sharply at her in the first days, just as she covered up her crepey throat with jewels and her arthritic hands with gloves, so she covered or ignored those things in life that age other people. Her will to live happily, or at least beautifully, was so formidable that it triumphed over nature itself. She was younger than all the starlets. She had reckless courage, the gift of friendship, and a restless, enquiring mind. In the stages of life that were behind her, Elsie, Lady Mendel, had graduated from an ugly child to a young woman who became a mediocre actress. Of the photographs of her and the paintings during the years that followed, one would say, to be kind, that she appeared to be a nice enough person, but without any distinction. She had no children. She never spoke of her family. Yet now she was beautiful. At the height of life, she had achieved a shining quality. Her face had the luminous pallor of a porcelain statue, young and alert. She had invented the bluing of hair and wore ribbons, jewels, or golden leaves in hers. She exercised hard and adhered to a rigid diet prescribed for her by Dr. Hauser. She followed all his advice with the exception of blackstrap molasses, and this I think she refused because she hated black, and any other mournful shade, in all objects with the exception of motor cars and black dresses. After her ordinary morning exercises, she devoted a daily half-hour to her eyes, exercising them by various routines and by flitting sunlight into them through a large magnifying glass. As a result, she had the vision of a bird of prey. She was self-made. She was American. She spoke a schoolgirl French, and in English she pronounced furniture fourniture and servants soivants. She insisted on perfection in the running of her house, and she had a passion for beautiful things. And these qualities lent her such strength that those who came near her gladly submitted to the discipline she inflicted on herself. All the bums of Hollywood got off their high-wheeled bicycles and behaved themselves, and the most vulgar women turned gentle in her presence. In Hollywood at that time, everyone's bread was thickly buttered.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?